more.
Exactly.
Now this video here, I'm promising you one thing, that it's an exciting video. It's an exciting kind of, because this guy, he's going to kind of break it down and kind of talk about where this thing is going and how much is in, what's at stake, and I don't know, it's really good. So where are we going with Bitcoin? This guy talks about it with an analyst.
Fortune hunters are going absolutely bananas for Bitcoin. The dizzying ascent continued today. For the first time ever, the digital currency jumped past $18,000. 10 years ago, it didn't even exist. Let's look past the euphoria for just a moment here. The staggering increase in value is raising all kinds of concerns. Skeptics call it a fraud, or the biggest bubble since tulip mania in the 1600s. One analyst likened it to an absurd video game with no boundaries. And yet, Bitcoin's total value has eclipsed New Zealand's GDP. It's more valuable than Boeing, the world's largest aerospace company, and it's bigger than the banking giant Goldman Sachs and UBS combined. Even if Bill Gates and Warren Buffett pooled their fortunes, they wouldn't have enough to buy all the Bitcoins in the world. They would have had a better chance in March when a Bitcoin was worth around $1,000. If you bought one then, by June, you would have doubled your money, quadrupled it by August, and at one point today, your initial investment would have grown nearly 19-fold. Okay, so let's talk to a Bitcoin bull about this. Ronnie Moaz is an analyst with Standpoint Research. He's raised his Bitcoin target price 4 times over the past month, from $7,500 all the way up to $28,000. That's where he expects Bitcoin to be by the end of 2018. He joins us now from Miami Beach. Ronnie, walk us through this, because I can hear the argument. I see people flooding into the market. What is it that makes Bitcoin worth $28,000?
It's worth a lot more than $28,000. That is only my target for next year. We have right now $200 trillion in the world, spread out across stocks, bonds, cash, and gold. And all 4 of those are overvalued. If 2% of that $200 trillion ends up in cryptocurrency, you're looking at a $4 trillion valuation, 10 times where we are today, and that would send Bitcoin to $150,000 if it holds on to its current market share.
But help me understand this, because a dollar is worth $1 because we all believe it's worth $1 and you can trade it for stuff. I guess gold and diamonds, you can value them. What is it about this? Is it a store of value? Is it a speculation that down the road somewhere this bet that it's worth this much is going to catch up with the actual value of the commodity itself? What is it that makes it worth it?
Everybody asks me what is backing Bitcoin, and my response is, what is backing the US dollar?
Yeah.
Well, the Federal Reserve, for what?
It has dropped 75% of its value since I was born 50 years ago. Not only is this a currency, it is one of the top 20 currencies in the world right now, and I believe it's going to be the #1 currency in the world within 10 years. That would put the valuation at $6 trillion, and that would exactly be where China and gold is today. I don't know how much gold there is in the ground. I know how much Bitcoin there is. I also know that within a couple of years, there will be hundreds of millions of people trying to get their hands on a few million Bitcoin, and there will be no reaction from the supply side of the equation because the supply is capped. There will be 100 million new crypto accounts being opened next year. Right now, more than 1 million accounts are being opened every week. I have never in my life seen such a mind-boggling imbalance between supply and demand. And Bitcoin, in my opinion, is significantly undervalued, even though it has already gone up 2,000% this year.
I guess my issue, though, is I look at it, and I look at these numbers. I look at this year alone. I was looking at Coinbase, one of the big exchanges today, that says the price of Bitcoin at that point, it's gone up above this now, but at that point it was at like $15,900 and some dollars, and then the column beside it is how much it's gone up by this year, and it's gone up by $15,100. It is a staggering line when you look at the curve in which this thing has gone up, and you have to look at that and say to yourself, well, that looks by every measure like a bubble that is about to burst.
There's no bubble. If there's a bubble, it's in the stock market or some other market. It's not in Bitcoin. 99% of the people in the world are still not in this game. We are going to hit 3, 4, 5, 6% penetration a few years from now, and that is what will drive this price deep into the 6 figures. There are no slam dunks here, and I strongly advise people who are investing in crypto to be diversified across at least a dozen of these 1,000 names that are currently in this space. MySpace got wiped out by Facebook. Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson. The iPhone wiped out BlackBerry. Uber wiped out the taxi drivers. There is no guarantee that Bitcoin will stay at the top of the mountain, but I believe that they will remain at the top of the mountain, and the coin price right now is undervalued by between 80 and 90% according to my conservative estimates. There are actually 2 highly regarded people last week that have $1 million targets on this.
There's a lot of people that have a lot of different targets on this. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this, but there's also an awful lot of exchanges. You've got Bitcoin, you've got Ethereum, you have all different sort of cryptocurrencies out there. Some of them are going to fail. Are you betting that Bitcoin is the one that will survive? And what happens, do you think, to those other cryptocurrencies, those other exchanges that are out there trading other cryptocurrencies and seeing some of the benefit of the Bitcoin rise as well?
Well, I strongly advise people to spread their investments out across 5 different exchanges. This way, if one of them gets hacked or goes bust for whatever reason, you only lost 20% of your money, which is not a lot if you're making hundreds of percent on the money that you have in the 4 other exchanges that stayed on their feet.
Just really quickly before you go, I wonder if you'll tell us, I don't know if you're disclosing this, at what point you bought in and what your stake is now in Bitcoin?
I am fully invested and I'm still buying it at the current prices. It's undervalued by between 80 and 90% in my opinion. I have never seen anything like this in 20 years. My clients are already up 500% since I put the recommendation out on the 3rd of July.
All right, this has been a wild ride to watch, and Ronnie, we appreciate your insight on all this.
Thank you for having me.
Ronnie Moaz, analyst with Standpoint Research.
All right, so next question. What jumped out about that whole thing and that explanation of the potential of Bitcoin?
Well, it was capped. I like that. Because that gives it some value.
Gives it some value.
And it shows that there's, it's less open-ended. It's not like the bank. It's like, it's an actual thing. It makes it look like an actual thing rather than an open-ended thing that can just go, you know, and kind of get out of control. So
it's an actual tangible digital commodity.
Right. Well, yeah. And then the other thing that jumped out at me was that he did say the same thing that you said the other night when I was here about getting a few different cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Spread stuff out.
Yeah.
Just in case, you know, somebody screws with it and it goes down, and then, you know.
Yeah, diversified, right?
Why would it go down? I don't get it.
Bitcoin fluctuates.
Why?
Up and down because it's a market supply and demand kind of thing, and it doesn't happen in a vacuum where everyone just buys Bitcoin and holds on.
Okay.
People buy and sell Bitcoin all day, throughout the day. They trade on Bitcoin for other currencies.
So it's when they're using it.
There's 3 main reasons that I think.
Or they're cashing it in.
Yeah, they're cashing it in or they're trading it for another currency.
I see.
Yeah. So there's
So it's a little playful.
Oh, it's definitely
It's
playful.
always going to be worth more than what you paid for it.
It's always going to be worth more than what you paid for it. Well, I mean, I don't know if I want to say always, but you could purchase Bitcoin today, and we could see a slump for a week.
Right.
We've seen that.
Well, December there was quite a
followed or preceded by a run to almost $20,000. You see what I mean? So what makes all of these changes happen? Well, it's market conditions. And then we also have people that are in the establishment that usually say crazy things like Bitcoin's a scam and, you know, get out of Bitcoin or watch out for cryptocurrency or whatever. And then it makes the public panic. And so what they'll do is they'll sell off their coin either for cash or they'll sell it off for other
It's
currencies.
so fast. It's like we're all playing a video game.
Haven't you said that like 2 or 3 times today?
It's just fun. No,
Yeah,
I think
and
there's
the
a
other
couple-
Randy stays up till 2 in the morning playing this.
Oh yeah, he's dialed in,
Yeah.
completely dialed in. I think there's a little
That's all he
plug that
thinks
goes
about.
from his back of his head into the computer.
Yeah, he says that's all he's thinking about now. He's so crazed.
But I think there's a couple of main things that move the price on this. One is the news channels, the news segment, which to some extent is being manipulated to a lot
Oh,
extent
of course.
by the banks that don't want this to
The banks
succeed.
that own those
So
stations.
that tends to move it.
Right.
Another thing that moves it is fear of government regulation.
Mhm.
So the government can kind of, you know, spook the markets a little bit.
Not with Bitcoin, they can't.
Well, they
They're not
can't,
controlled.
no, it's not controlled, but they can
say something.
they can spook it in ways of, you know, fear of some kind of other kinds of, you
Well, then
know,
the
tax or,
miners need to send us an email.
you know, in
saying,
Japan, I think Japan has a luxury tax on this. So the way that they tax it, when you go buy Bitcoin, if you're a Japanese citizen, you actually pay a certain
Wow.
tax, you know, like a certain
The
percentage
whole reason to
tax.
get into this thing is to avoid that.
Huh?
Here's the thing about the tax thing, and you know, the U.S. government, they're not going to let us, you know, run rampant with this wealth building creation without them being close by to make sure that if you take your unregulated currency and convert it into regulated currency, fiat currency, they're going to be there to get you.
Okay.
So you can have as much Bitcoin as you want in the Bitcoin world, in the crypto world. But the minute you convert it into cash, I don't know what happens because there's no laws yet.
Mhm.
But there is exposure at that point.
What if you go to your other house over in Europe or Australia? Can you get your money out over there?
Yep.
Okay, so you could go to another country, get it out, and not
There's-
have to pay the tax on it?
Well, there's no limits on what you can do with Bitcoin.
Uh-huh.
As far as what can happen with taxation, I
Uh-huh.
don't know that answer, to be honest. But I can tell you that there are plenty of methods of converting your Bitcoin into cash without going through the regulated industry. One thing is like last night, for example, me and Hillary, we did a transaction. She gave me $100 and I gave her cryptocurrency. That transaction there's no one involved and no one knows besides me and Hillary and everyone in the room, you see? Most people in the world don't use some kind of exchange to cash out.
So
Most
what's
people,
she doing, investing in your crypto?
no, we had a
Different things.
different thing. But the point is that most people exchange currency for fiat Bitcoin for fiat currency on a one-on-one basis.
Mm.
It's what we call peer-to-peer.
Uh-huh.
Most of us don't use like Coinbase to exchange through the system and deposit into our bank. I oftentimes meet with people who need cryptocurrency, when I need cash to pay my bills. So we'll meet at the coffee shop, and they'll give me an envelope, and they'll slide it under the table. And then I just go, and we go, okay, see you later. And that's how I pay my bills. Because someone always wants cryptocurrency, or someone always wants cash, one or the other.
Right.
So I haven't had to actually cash out my Bitcoin for a long time
Nice.
When you did, how did you do it?
through Coinbase. I just sold it
I've
off.
never sold any through there yet.
Oh, okay. You sell it off. You sell, and they just sell your Bitcoin
And
off.
then put it
So
in
that
your
goes
checking
into the
account.
pool, and then someone else buys
And
it.
they put it in your
Yeah,
checking.
in the market. and your amount goes into your bank account as cash.
I see.
Yeah.